Maddy Franco with Premier Sotheby's.
I'm Alexis Sofield with Premier Sotheby's.
And welcome to our channel. So today, one of the things that we wanted to talk about were buyer trends in 2022. So as you know, 2022 and 2021 were definitely anomaly years, which caused some different trends in the market. One specifically being first-time home buyers. Now, for a lot of agents, we noticed that they pretty much disappeared. It was very hard.
Right.
Very hard for first-time home buyers. And actually, the statistic came out that it basically, the age of the first-time home buyer actually changed. It went to 36 years of age.
What was it before?
It was about 26.
That's a pretty significant jump.
Yeah. So it was 26 or 27, if I'm not mistaken, was what I had heard at one of the conventions. So that's pretty significant. And why? I mean, we all probably already know. If those of you guys have not been aware of what's been happening, the interest rates going up, that definitely caused first-time home buyers and all home buyers to have less money, right?
And the purchasing power on something at 3% versus 6% is significant, especially the higher you up go in your sales price. Could be really, that can pull people out of the market.
It can. And
it has.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, do you remember the last 2 years, we were mostly working with out-of-state buyers.
right.
And so that obviously became really great for sellers because they now were looking at a whole other field of people that were selling homes in other places, having cash on hand, and buying here. So Florida was considered to be like the gold mine.
Yeah, it was a hot spot. And they were able to not bargain, but kind of pick their buyer in a sense, get the best deal.
Mm-hmm. So, when I was working with first-time home buyers or locals, I can say that much, it was really hard because we had to compete with a lot of times multiple offer situations was you can pretty much guarantee. When you had a house that went on the market, if you were a listing agent last year, it was gold because you knew that your home was going to fly off the shelf. And it was very difficult for a lot of first-time home buyers that don't have the same abilities to be able to obviously pay cash or even qualify for a conventional loan that's going to require a larger down payment.
So if I was a seller and my agent brought to me two different offers, one was cash. I was asking $360 and they gave me $360 cash or $360 conventional loan. They have to go through appraisal and all these processes. I'm going to pick the cash guy every time. And that's what we saw.
Mm-hmm. We saw that.
So they were aggressively marketing their property or getting what they wanted because of that.
Yeah. So how does that, what does that mean for us today? It has caused tremendous, I won't call it growing pains, but somewhat. It's been a reality check. Education for your sellers as a listing agent has been tremendous. The hardest conversation that I feel that I'm having to have over and over is when somebody has their home and they want to put their home on the market now and their neighbor put it on the market last year. It flew off the market in a matter of hours.
They expect the same.
And then they they say, well, so-and-so was able to sell their house for this price.
Okay, when was that?
That's what my question is.
Well, when was that? Because then it's hard to list their property to try to meet their expectations. So a little bit of education goes a long way.
It does. And, there is something with days on the market that I know back in the last 2 years was almost non-existent. You have a house that was like...
What was it like? If it was on the market for 2 weeks, they had like a
something's wrong with
negative stigma, like something's wrong with it. Sinkhole, what's going on?
It was just so ridiculous.
Yeah, 2 weeks. Like, why didn't it sell?
So ridiculous. And, so the expectations have to be adjusted because this really is more of a 2019 market before the fluke of the last 2 years that we had. And it has also allowed for a lot of agents that came into the market just within the last 2 years were very much not accustomed to having to work. I don't mean that to be disparaging,
right.
but I mean that we were like order takers. Like it was so fast. It's like,
that's a good way of saying it.
I
Order
want
takers.
this house, put an offer. Like you put the offer as soon as possible, because you know that there's probably already 10 offers on it.
Did you hear Summer meowing?
I don't know.
The other thing too was it led to a little bit of sloppy marketing because these listen, that's like a sour spot.
That's such
for
a
you.
pet peeve for me.
So you see a lot of these listing agents that were like, "Oh, this is going to sell," so I'll just take pictures of the house with my phone. Which, not knocking phone, you could produce really good pictures, but they were kind of sloppy. Shadows of them in the background, them in the mirror in the background.
In the car.
Oh yeah, that was the worst.
That
one.
was probably the worst one.
In the car.
You're in the car,
pulled
up to the property
through the windshield,
and you take a picture, and I literally see your wiper.
and it sold. That's the thing. So these same agents are in this market and they're having a harder time because they're not accustomed to doing it.
A quality.
I dare say the proper way.
Yes.
My opinion.
Yes. I can't even. One of my pet peeves.
Right.
So in addition to that, I would say as far as adjusting the expectations with buyers are also now, according to last year, which makes sense, people were allowed to work remotely, right? And that has also changed the way how the market functions. They're moving further and further away. In fact, they're moving up to 50 miles away. So that's a big deal because the average was 10 to 15 miles away.
What do the lenders see when it comes to primary residence and distance from your work to your house?
So when it comes to, especially, I have to say the last year has been a lot with relocation. A lot of people that have wanted to come from up north and they are they want to buy in Florida for a primary residence, but they are living up north.
That was an epic meow. Summer.
I don't know if they hear that. What happened with the cat?
You keep talking. I don't know. I have to check.
Are we gonna have to
keep
cut?
talking. No, cutting. Which one was that one?
I have no idea, but I figured it might go with something. Either it was clapping.
Oh, it's a chime.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I was hoping for the
randomly push buttons. I'll be back. Keep talking.
Really, I'm talking to myself. This is a sidebar conversation. We have a cat.
Come on, Summer.
I love her. I'm not an animal person, or so I thought. And I don't know why she's meowing. She doesn't normally meow. But I was talking about when people are trying to move and relocate, because they are a lot of times relocating employment, then you are looking at a radius if you're looking for a primary residence. So I believe the radius has to be how the distance that you can actually, drive in a day if you actually have to be on location. I want to say you caught me off guard. I think it was 50 miles.
I'm sorry, but yeah, don't take our word for it. I think probably consult a
No,
lender
but with
to
the
find out.
lenders, they'll let you know. I want to say I know that there is a radius.
I recall something
in order
about
for,
50 miles. That's why I brought it up.
Yes, and
Okay.
I want to say that is correct. Obviously, because of the fact that a lot of people are working remotely, that might change, or that has changed. That doesn't necessarily, a lot of people can work from home, and it's not a problem for them to have a primary residence somewhere else. But of course, I would check with your lender,
yes.
because these sorts of rules and exceptions and things, they do change.
It's very dynamic.
So it is, and it is always changing. So I did have
Hypostatic.
I worked with people that moved, or they were working. One was working remotely, and the other one was going to find employment, in a couple cities away, and that was fine as long as they had a letter of intent.
Right.
So
refer to
always,
yeah.
always. I am not. I'm not a lender, but I do work with wonderful lenders, local lenders, that are able to, keep track of all these things as
and
well.
answer those questions a little better than we can. So I'm sorry for bringing it up.
No, don't be sorry.
Yeah,
It's a
I'll
great
leave.
question.
You want to leave?
Don't leave. Don't leave. Thanks for taking care of the cat. So another thing, which goes without saying, is first-time home buyers, because they've decreased, they had the all-time low of 26% last year. And normally they take about 40% of the market.
Okay,
So
so
think
the
about
normal
that.
market is 40%, and then it dropped to 26%.
Yes, that's
What's the
significant.
time frame? 20%. What's the time for 26%? That's all 22? Sorry, I hit the mic.
2022.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
So
that was a
previous-
trend. That was the last year's trends. So obviously this year things are starting to look a little different. I have noticed more local buyers, which this is their chance. You know, once the interest rates started to go up, and once things in other states started to, especially with the pandemic and a lot of those, a lot of the restrictions were lifted. What happened was people no longer felt so adamant about moving, you know, to Florida or moving somewhere else in general. And that pool of people started to decrease. So it obviously put the sellers in the position that they're like, hey, where did all the buyers
Yeah,
go?
I know, it's
Where
tough.
do they go? So now, instead of it just being a cash conventional market, it started to open up to other types of loans. And most first-time home buyers will, if it's their primary residence, they'd like to take advantage if they can. They meet the eligibility requirements for an FHA. FHA is extremely popular, and it's a great loan.
I'm trying to say something. Not that, but would you call this market a traditional market, or like a 2019, or not as crazy? What would you call the crazy? Fluke, crazy last 2 years. So this is more like a traditional market?
It
Is
is.
that the appropriate word?
I would say so.
Or is working towards that?
No, I would definitely say that it is more of a traditional market.
Right.
And that, I think, the Fed, with them raising interest rates, right? We saw a dip like February of last year as the interest rates started to go down. I think I mentioned that in the last video, but we started to see a dip. So right now they're trying to, those prices started to really peak, and then it was like,
Slow it down.
But why? But why is that important? Right? When you look at the median price of a home in Marion County, and you're talking about the median income, there's a huge gap there. So, you know, you're talking $65,000 a year as a median income, and your home prices were up in, you know, 350 plus. So as interest rates started to go up, who can afford that and actually be able to make a decent living? So naturally, things started to slow down. We hit 7% in November, and that was really tough. That was really, really hard. We didn't know how much further up it was going to go. And so it was very much a stagnant market within that last month of the quarter. But now, here we are in the new year. The interest rate has gone down into the sixes, and so they're anticipating it to continue to kind of hover in the sixes and possibly go down into the fives.
But historically, 6 is not bad.
No, I know, but it's hard to think
when you
historically.
I know. But when you get used to 2.5, 3%,
sheesh.
you're like,
That's like free
that's
money.
a big jump. But historically, it's not terrible.
So what people are doing now, which I find really fascinating.
Hey, what do you find really fascinating?
I will tell you what I find
The
fascinating.
coffee is working.
It's starting to work.
Yeah, sorry. I
starting to wake
apologize
up now.
in advance.
Is a lot of first-time home buyers are actually buying investment properties. So they're called, instead of investors, they're being called rent-vestors.
Which is an investment property.
Yeah, but think about it. So what they're doing is they are actually renting themselves in other places. So they
I'm not
can
tracking.
live. Okay, I know this is kind of a strange concept.
This is
But-
like Inception, but in real estate.
Yeah, it's kind of. I had to like read it several times. So
But did the-
follow me out.
Did
Okay?
the spinner thing fall?
So I'm back in my 20s,
Who knows?
having a good time, and I don't want to live in a small town that I can actually, you know, afford. But I want to buy a house. I still want to live in the city and live it up. So I'm going to rent in the city, but I'm going to buy a house in a place that I can actually afford and not live there, but rent it out.
Until you're
So,
ready to
until
settle
you're ready,
down and
or
get tired
maybe
of the...
not even like settle down in that spot. How about like having the property, enjoying some of those, you know, tax benefits from having a property,
Right.
enjoying appreciation over time, but not being committed to one particular place. I mean, it's a
An
great
investor.
idea. I think so. They're called rent-vestors because they're renting,
I know,
but they're
but
still
you're splitting hairs
investors.
at that point. Aren't you? It's just
Listen,
they're investors.
That's what they're called, though, because they're still renting.
So what do people do who invest in property that doesn't rent it out?
Why are you throwing me under the bus right
I'm
now?
just saying. I know it's rent investors, but it just seems like unnecessary to call it rent investors.
Well, you know, like some people. I mean, if you follow Bigger Pockets, they're an amazing sort of channel, and what they encourage people to do is the first property they live in a room. You know, you can kind of squat and then and have other people live there with you and be able to rent out.
Now
let them pay your mortgage.
Well, now there's Airbnb that you actually could do that. Airbnb. I know because we have one, but Airbnb allows you to rent a space versus VRBO allows you to. You have to rent out the whole property. So what you're talking about is perfect for Airbnb because you can simply say, hey, we have one room over here available. And that's one way that they can do that. And I'm sure a lot of people are doing that.
I mean, why wouldn't you? Especially with some of the houses. And I wonder, I'm going to put you on the spot now.
All right, let's go.
Boom.
Yeah.
So I wonder.
I want a mullet.
If you, okay, so random. What if you have a property that has a she shed on it?
So, all right, hold on. I don't think so. I don't know. I think depending on the local.
If I lived in the shed and I rented out the house.
Oh, no, yeah, that's not a problem. You can do what you want.
You can do that.
But I think by code.
Yeah. So, I'm not encouraging any
no,
sort
we're
of.
not encouraging.
You know, follow your local, government, code enforcement, and municipalities. But yeah, I mean, there are creative ways in real estate. And I think that that's what makes real estate so dynamic is because depending on where you're at, you do have certain leniencies when it comes to what's acceptable in certain cities.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Do tell.
I spoke to my good friend yesterday, and she told me that she went to a showing and it was zoned residential. There was a big old cow in the backyard.
Somebody likes milk. Well, I don't blame them. How much is a gallon of milk nowadays?
Well, how much? For that, you get chickens. How much are eggs? I think
you can't
eggs
get
are
milk
beating.
from chickens?
No, I know, but chickens, eggs.
Yeah, but for all that
gold.
work and everything, you just spend the arm and the leg and $10 for a dozen eggs.
I don't know, but I'm thinking about getting chickens.
Your boys don't eat all of it, and then you're looking at them like, yo, that's a $3 egg.
No, they have to sit there till they finish that egg.
Yo. Anyways, we're coming up to 30 minutes, so we do need to get to this, which is my part.
So talk to me a little bit.
Unless you have anything further to say.
There's nothing further that I'd like to say. Thank you.
Okay, so.
I'm sure that was a bad button.
No, it was an applause.
I don't trust you with that thing. And I haven't memorized what you have on there.
No,
you
blue is applause.
I don't want to know.
It says it right there,
Much
applause.
more I can't see. There's a shadow.
So this is from the National Association of Realtors, okay? And I'm going to share with you 4 inexpensive ways to boost your curb appeal this winter, okay?
Okay, hold on. Before you start, please tell the rest of the
world,
the flowering fields of the world.
Oh, okay.
What happens in Ocala, Zone 9, around January and February? Are we nice and flowery and warm?
No. Occasionally up this far north in Florida, we actually get some freezes, and the freeze kind of tears up the plants. So you see a lot of people November, January, December. I said that backwards. But you see them put the blankets over to protect their plants. But if you don't, you're going to have dead plants. And if we pan the camera...
Truth be told...
to the front of our
house looks like the Addams Family house.
And our Airbnb property. We have nice, beautiful pots, and they're gone.
Gone.
So I don't know why we talked about that.
That's
but it's
important
true.
because you're talking about curb appeal. People are going to list their house on the market, and the
it just takes one night and it kills it all. So you got to be careful.
Right. So what are some ways?
Okay, so 4 ways. This is from National Association of Realtors. One is to brighten the front door. All right, and I'm going to read, and I quote: even just a fresh paint coat of the existing color can sometimes do the trick. Mosier says, or give it a new color. For a cohesive look, paint the door a shade darker or lighter than the home's exterior color, which kind of makes sense to keep it in the same color
That would
palette.
be nice. I love turquoise.
That's safe,
I know.
right? But be like the pop.
But that, I think, which makes me look at my door, makes me want to paint it.
All right. So no, we're not going to do that. So some people might like it simple and clean, so that's a good recommendation. I'm going to listen to them. They made the article.
Okay.
Okay. Anyway, the next one is add flower boxes. We were just talking about this. That's what we did in our Airbnb.
They all died.
Right. So look at this. In the winter, try cold-friendly plants such as pansies. We did not do that at all.
Did not do that. Don't listen to us
Yeah.
when it comes to
flowering cabbages and kales and ferns.
Kale?
I don't know.
I don't know why you eat kale
Well, you know what, we
and
should-
put it into a
We should
flower
take our own
box?
advice. Why didn't we read this article before we decided to buy the plants? When I say we, I mean you.
Kale?
Maybe it's a type of
You know what?
landscaping
Maybe
kale.
that is self-sustaining. In case things go
Oh, yeah. You could eat your
crazy, you
plants.
could eat your flower
Make
plants.
chips out of it. I've seen people
Flower
make kale
boxes.
chips, and guess what? The kale chips are actually disgusting.
I made kale chips.
Yeah, that's why I don't like them. All right, so
I like them.
yeah, that was terrible.
Okay.
Here's another one. Number 3, swap out the lighting. If there's room, add a hanging pendant or chandelier above the front door. This is totally up your alley. You're a chandelier queen. You love chandeliers.
Chandeliers. They just really, fixtures do such
Right.
a difference to a property. On the outside, especially the coach lights, when you see those, they tend to get beat up with the weather. In Florida, it's brutal. The sun is just brutal on anything that you leave outdoors that you don't cover. In fact, our covers, they got destroyed the last hurricane.
Right.
And I have to replace them still. But anyway,
So this is for you guys as well as
it
for
is.
us.
I should probably.
Yeah, we probably
do
should
this.
do this. Okay, so the last one, and we have to end it soon because getting to the ending point here. Supersize the address numbers. All right, so large, sleek black numbers can add modern vibe to home. Now I'm going to speak as far as a safety concern as well because I was in the fire service for 19 years. And one issue is people that don't have their address numbers on there. And if you're having an emergency, I mean, just for safety and health, make it where the first responders can actually see the numerics because sometimes we don't, unless the house is on fire. Then it's like, yep, it's that one right there.
Wow.
So
Now, did you find that
that could be a matter of life and
how
death.
about
to be honest with you.
reflective? Because in
that
some
works.
55 plus communities, I guess
No,
required. It
yeah,
has to
and
be
that,
on the
that
front
does
door.
work 100%.
The reflective
Yep.
numbers.
Yes.
And the consistency in the neighborhood.
But for curb appeal, nice, big, black, those are cheap. All these 4 things, brighten the front door, add flower boxes, swap out the lighting to chandeliers, and supersize your address numbers are 4 inexpensive ways to boost curb appeal in the winter.
Thank you.
Hey,
Are
I'm
we
here
gonna-
for you.
Are we going to follow our own advice?
I think we should.
We should.
We actually don't have big numbers, too. Sometimes people get lost here. It's a problem.
Yeah.
We did
I
this
don't know if I
video for
wanna be
us so we could
found.
reference it whenever we want, basically.
Yeah, this is true. This will be bookmarked.
Are you going to do a fancy closing or you have something else to say?
I appreciate for those of you guys that stood the entire time and listened to this.
Yes.
Hopefully you learned or just saw a little bit of an insight as far as the buyer trends from last year and also things that you can do to spruce up your home during this fantastic, very confusing time of year. So with that, this is Maddy Franco signing out.
Is that your signing out?
That is my signing out.
This is Alexis ending the podcast now. And I'm leaving.
I don't know. I need to know what these things sound like.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.